Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. I'm going to go ahead and drop our presentation in the chat if you would like to save it or follow along. I know you've been on Zoom for a really long time, but I will I will extend an invitation to turn on your camera if you are feeling comfortable to do so. It makes it, a nice environment. We're going to actually do some stuff together, so you get to do some things. I'm not just going to talk at you for a long time. So if you have wandered away from your device, please come back to it if you're able, because we're going to be if you're joining us on a computer, if you're joining us on a cell phone and you're able to use it. I see Sabi, you're driving, so please don't don't drive and use the internet at the same time. But thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to dive right into our advocacy power half hour. My name is Hallie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the community policy manager at the coalition. And one thing that I'm really focused on right now is the state legislative session. And so I'm going to share my screen and we are going to go through today's agenda really quick. And Tim is going to help me drop some links in the chat as we go along. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Hopefully you see a PowerPoint. If you don't, sorry. But first, we are going to learn how to find our legislative district and the names of our state legislators. Then we'll talk a little bit about orienting ourselves to the legislature. We'll talk about the coalition's legislative priorities this year. And then we are going to practice taking action. We're going to practice signing in pro on a bill that is in the legislature right now. And then we'll talk a little bit about other ways to speak up. So for finding your district and your legislator, you're going to need to use your computer. So get ready for that. So first off, we are going to go to this website that Tim, if you could drop it in the chat, that would be great. And you are going to look up your legislative district. So to do that, you will enter your address at the top of the website. Click enter, and it will spit out your 2 representatives and your 1 senator in your legislative district. So go ahead and take a minute to do that. And once you're done, please put your legislative district in the chat. Awesome. I see folks are having success. If anybody's having trouble, let me know and I'm happy to help. Oh, I have some neighbors in the 43rd. Very fun. Awesome. Great job. If you haven't added your legislative district yet, please continue to do so, and we are going to roll right along. I think it's really exciting that we have so many different legislative districts represented here today. If we all were to reach out to our representatives today, we would be reaching out to a good chunk of the legislature. So that is super exciting and is just a great indicator of how powerful even a small group like this can be. So now that you know who your legislators are and what district you live in, we are going to talk just a little bit about orienting ourselves to this year's legislature. So this year, our legislature convenes every year. This year is a short session, so it starts in January, it ends in March. That is a really short time to get done all the things that the legislature wants to get done. The legislature will consider bills, which have often policy implications. Sometimes they have financial implications as well. And they will also consider budget requests. So, one of the most important things that the legislature does every year is to pass a budget. Because this year is a short session, it is the second year of a biennial budget. So usually in the second year of a biennial budget, there is a little less wiggle room to make significant changes to the budget. But short sessions can still be a really important place to make adjustments to funding in the budget, and also to pass policy, but also to start or continue conversations that may take many, many years to actually make their way into a law. So I'll give one example of that. A really exciting bill was proposed this year, House Bill 2030, which would extend voting rights to people who are incarcerated, unless the crime that they're incarcerated for is punishable by death. So a huge swath of people who are incarcerated would become eligible to vote, which is super exciting for us at the coalition. We do a lot with voter registration. So that is just a really exciting bill for us. It got a hearing this year, which means that a committee of the legislature discussed it publicly, which was a great surprise. We didn't expect that it was going to even get that far this year. And we don't really expect that this bill will probably make it into law this year. It's possible, certainly. But I think this is one of those bills that has made great progress this year already and will continue to be worked on, in next year's legislative session. So let's talk a little bit about our legislative priorities at the coalition. So we all know now what our legislative district is, who represents us. We know a little bit about the legislature and what's going on this year. So let's talk a little bit about where we're focused here at the coalition. So we really have three overarching priorities, which are to create stable revenue for housing and homelessness services, to protect tenants, particularly from eviction into homelessness, and ensuring access to public benefits when people need them. And I've got some examples of these. I'll highlight just a few of these because I don't want to talk for super long. But one bill that we're really focused on for creating stable revenue for homelessness services, as well as public health and other really important services, is to raise King County's property tax limit. So right now, King County can only raise property taxes by 1% every year. This was from like a Tim Eyman initiative that came through in 2001. And it has really limited the amount of funding that King County can collect, particularly to fund public health and human services. And we are looking at really massive budget cuts to those fields next year if this is not fixed. So it may seem weird that, like, why is the Coalition on Homelessness getting involved in property taxes? But it's because it is really, really relevant to the folks who are experiencing homelessness, to agencies that serve them. It is a really important bill that's coming through this year. For protecting tenants, there's a really exciting set of bills. These are called companion bills when the same bill is introduced both in the House and in the Senate, that would limit rent increases to 5% a year. And it would provide a whole bunch of other renter protections as well. So those are two bills that we are really supportive of. And finally, there are a couple bills about protecting access to public benefits. One of them is House Bill 2007, which would extend the amount of time that people can receive TANF benefits. This group is probably well versed in public benefits, but there is a lifetime limit to the amount that you can receive TANF benefits. So even if you can, even if you still need them, and even if you're otherwise still eligible, once you hit that limit, you're done. So this bill would allow folks to stay on TANF if losing their benefits would cause financial hardship. The final bill that I'll talk about, because we're going to take, this is the one that we're going to take action on later today, is under for our stable revenue to create a permanent funding source for the Housing Trust Fund. So these, again, are companion bills, House Bill 2276 and Senate Bill 6191. Those would create a new tax on the sale of really valuable real estate, so over $3 million. And that would go into the Housing Trust Fund, and it would fund the development of affordable housing. So really, really important bills, and we're going to practice taking action on one of those in a moment. Okay, so let's do some practice. Tim, if you can drop the link for signing in pro for 6191 in the chat, we are going to practice what's called signing in pro. So if you are signed up for our advocacy alerts, or if you're signed up for advocacy alerts from other organizations, you may have received invitations to sign in pro for a bill. This is like the fastest way to take action. It's a great way to take action. And what it does is it adds your name to a public list of people who support a bill. And it is super, super simple. It's really important because it shows lawmakers that there's broad support for a bill. And so we're going to practice doing that. I'm going to actually stop sharing this screen so I can take us to that website and share that screen instead. So if you follow the link that Tim put in the chat, I have too many windows open. Okay, here we go. It will take you here to this committee sign-in page for Senate Bill 6191. Again, this would add a tax on the sale of valuable real estate that would fund the Housing Trust Fund. You can scroll down and under position, select pro. If you're signing in for a bad bill that you want to sign in against, you would select con. But for this one, we're going to do pro. You put in your first name, your last name, your email, and this is an important tip. If you are doing this just of your own, like as a private citizen, then please use your personal email unless you have explicit permission to represent your organization. So use your personal email. Again, unless you are officially representing your organization, go ahead and leave the organization part blank. You don't have to put your address if you don't want to. You just need to put your city, state, zip, phone, tell them you're not a robot, and submit, and that's it. And after you do this once, you might have seen that I've done this before. So it auto-populates my information, and it takes me like 10 seconds to sign in pro. So please do sign in pro and raise your hand once you've done it. And you can raise your real life hand or you can raise your Zoom hand, either way, once you've signed in pro. Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Rosemary and Karina. Well done.
One thing I really like about signing in pro is that the more you do it, the easier it takes. If you use like Google Chrome or have your contact information shared in a browser, you can just autofill it. So it literally takes like 10 seconds if you've done it at least once before. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fast. Somebody the other day was like, after I did this once the first time, I'm like, how could I ever not do it again? Like, I'll just do it every time because it takes 2 seconds. So it's a really great way to take action.
Also a reminder that this isn't like a petition that shows symbolic support. Sometimes petitions are really helpful to indicate interest to a lawmaker, but these essentially show like real-time public support for a bill that they're deliberating on in committee. So this is like very useful in the moment while we're in
Yeah.
session.
Thanks, Tim. That's really great context. And this particular bill has a hearing this afternoon. So legislators will check when they go in for their hearing and see, oh, 100 people signed in pro. That's, really important for them to understand that there's broad support for this bill. Awesome. Great job, everyone. You can go ahead and lower your hands if you've got them up, and I'm going to jump back into our different options for ways that we can take action. So signing in pro is really easy. It's a great way to take action. It is really quick. I'm going to skip the part, we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to skip the part about how to see who has signed in. But you have a copy of this PowerPoint in the chat, and you're welcome to play around with that. All you have to do is put in the bill number, and you can see who has testified or who has signed up pro. Okay. Another really quick way to take action is to take action by sending advocacy email alerts. So Tim, if you don't mind adding our invitation to sign up for our advocacy alerts in the chat. The coalition sends out advocacy alerts. Many of our partner organizations like the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, Statewide Poverty Action Network, and others also have email lists that you can sign up for. And we will send you invitations to take action, either by signing in pro or by filling out like a form email to send to your legislators. If it's a form email, one really great thing that you can do is to personalize the first sentence or two of that form email. That just helps lawmakers pay attention if it's a little bit different each time. And it also adding that personal touch is really, really important, especially if you have personal experience or experience from someone that you can share with your legislator. One last thing that I'll say on this is we will often invite you to take action on a bill multiple times. As it moves through the legislature, it goes through different committees and different bodies of people. So each time a bill goes to a different group of legislators, we may ask you to take action again because those legislators also need to hear from you. So you will not annoy your elected officials by emailing them multiple times. It is really, really important to take action at each sort of touch point as a bill moves through the process. You can also call your legislators. So you can call the legislative hotline anytime during work hours during the session. It's 1-800-562-6000. And you will speak to a real human, which is like amazing. You'll speak to a real human, and they will help you leave a message for your lawmaker, and they can help you find, bills in a subject area that you're interested in. They are just super, super helpful. And then you leave a short message for your legislators, and they direct that message off to your legislators. It's a really excellent tool. So I've tried to sort of segment all of these different options by roughly how much time they might take. So this is like a 5-minute option. You can also write your legislators. So when you looked up your legislative district earlier, you might have noticed that you could click on the name of each of your legislators. And when you click on their name, it will give you an option to email them. So if you click on the link to email them, it'll take you to a form that you can fill out to email your legislators. So you can email them about a specific bill, or you can just send them an email introducing yourself, your work, and what issues you're concerned with in the legislature this year. So I might send them an email and say, hello, I'm Hallie. I live in your district. I work in homelessness advocacy, and I'm really concerned about making sure that tenants don't face really high rent increases each year. And I really want to make it so nobody gets evicted into homelessness. And I'm really passionate about these bills. So that's like another really quick 5-minute option, is to write your legislators. Another sort of more time intensive but also really impactful option is to testify in Olympia. One of the good things that came out of the COVID times is the legislature now has remote testimony, so you can give testimony on Zoom. You don't have to go down to Olympia. And we can help you through that process of signing up for testimony, drafting your testimony, practicing your testimony. We are more than happy to help you with that. Tim, if you could share my email in the chat, please do feel free to reach out to me. And when you open up this PowerPoint, also, there are some really helpful links to the legislature's website that can tell you much more information on how can I participate in the legislative process, and even tutorial videos of how to engage. So there are so many different options for this one. I'll say that I testified to the legislature for the first time like last week. I testified on raising King County's 1% property tax limit. And it was really easy. Like, I just signed into the Zoom, waited a little while, and then they invited me to give my testimony, and that was it. So it was really, really accessible. I didn't have to drive to Olympia. That was great. And it was, a really impactful way to speak up and be heard by all the members of the committee at once. And the final, biggest time commitment, but also very fun and impactful, is you can attend an advocacy day in Olympia. We have one coming up that we are participating in. The Washington Low Income Housing Alliance is hosting Housing and Homelessness Advocacy Days on, I should say Tuesday, January 30th, this coming Tuesday in Olympia. And there are a few others coming up as well. So if you would like to join the Housing and Homelessness Advocacy Days, feel free to send me or Tim an email, and we can send you all the info that you need. So this is, the biggest time commitment. It takes about a day, but it can be, a really great option to engage with like-minded people and get to meet your legislators in person. Okay, we did it in a half hour.
And we just have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, one quick question going back to signing in pro that I wanted to make sure that we've answered. If the hearing is at 4 p.m. today, what time is the deadline to sign in?
That's a great question. So the deadline for signing in pro is always an hour before the hearing starts. If you miss that deadline, or if signing in pro doesn't feel like enough to say what you want to say about a bill, you can always write an email to the legislators that are in that committee, and that is open for, I can't remember exactly how long, but that option is open for like a little while after the hearing, a few hours at least. So that's another great option if that deadline doesn't work for you. Awesome. Any other questions? Oh, great. I see someone is joining us on Tuesday. That's fabulous.
Yay.
Very exciting. Yeah, Sabi.
Hi, do you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Good. Yeah, my name is Sabella Pastor. I go by Sabi. I'm a provider in the space for a nonprofit named Farmer Frog. We provide a bunch of food to folks, especially houseless individuals. And I also volunteer for a local nonprofit for the United States Volunteer Joint Services Command, where we see a lot of houseless veterans that we're servicing right out of vehicles. And lastly, I'm here. I was invited by Stacy Valenzuela because I'm running for state senator in the 1st Legislative District. So I wanted to first off thank you guys for hosting this, especially this Advocacy Half Power Hour. And I want to know if those legislative priorities are available on the website, because me as a candidate for state senator, I want to support those initiatives. Thank you.
Definitely. And thank you for joining us. If you check our blog, and I think Tim posted the link a little while ago, but we can repost it in the chat as well. I'm keeping relatively up to date. Don't judge me. I still need to update it. There's a couple things that are outdated on there right now, but I'll update it very soon. But we are keeping tabs on some of our highest legislative priorities in that blog. So that's probably the best spot to access our legislative priorities right now. Awesome. Any other questions? Okay. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions, or if you are curious how to engage in the legislative session. My email is, I will drop it in the chat again. It's just my first name, HALI @homelessinfo.org. And thank you so much for joining us again. Yeah, Rosemary, go ahead.
Yeah, I just remembered one question I had. I get a little, I have a little trouble keeping track of how many times I have responded to a request to say pro on a hearing. I'm concerned my name may be duplicated, and then do they track that, or how do I make sure I'm not, I don't want my vote to be not counted because I'm on there more than once, or how do I, it's probably my own problem with tracking, but it becomes hard if I'm listening to several organizations and I thought, have I done this one?
Sure thing.
Is there a problem?
Yes, that's a great question. Let me share my screen so I can walk us through how to check who has signed in. And I'm not sure if they like check automatically. I don't know exactly what their process is, but you can always check this way. So the one that we were signing in today was on 6191. And so we can go to the legislature's website to bill information. We're going to search for 6191. And then when we go sign up to testify, we wait for it to load. There we go. You can click see who signed in for this agenda item. So we'll double check that 6191 is selected, see who signed in. And then this first list is people who are testifying. So if we're just signing in pro, that's not us. We're going to scroll down to people who are not testifying. And you can search for your name. So that's a good way to check and see who has signed in. And you can also see there are a lot of people, over 1,000 people that have signed in for this particular bill. And you can also see who is going to be giving testimony and what organization they work for in this list as well.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I've been like a total nerd about the legislature's website over the past few weeks. So if you're ever like needing to find something, feel free to reach out and let me know.
Yeah, I'm just starting to. Thanks. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rosemary. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for sticking around for this last half hour. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.